Our final presenter is Ms. Elizabeth Robinson.
Hello. I'm a little too fragile to be thrown around like Jesse, and I'm not creative enough to have something like Matthew. So we'll just get straight to the point. Mankind has placed itself into a moral predicament. This moral predicament is the fact that they have the inability or lack of desire to partake in sound and moral reasoning. Alistair MacIntyre, he was a Scottish philosopher who wrote After Virtue. He says, "What we possess, if this view is true, are the fragments of a conceptual scheme, parts which now lack those contexts from which their significance is derived." What he's saying is that mankind has lost the capability to discern the differences between contradicting worldviews and how they answer these worldviews. You see, every worldview offers their own perception of how the moral issue should be answered. These fundamental assumptions are based upon the theologies that shape the belief system itself. Man must be able to identify these absolute truths, but with the current predicament, mankind has lost the ability to answer this question of what it means to be human, because each worldview offers their own view. They all contradict. Only one worldview supports the universal truth that all men are created equal and have the innate right to life and liberty. Christianity, atheism, and Islam are all three major worldviews in today's society that offers their own view of life. Christianity is a monotheistic religion that believes that men were created as sentient, image-bearing beings of God, whose purpose is to have dominion over every creation on earth. Mankind was created as subjects of God. Therefore, each created being and thing is created to maintain the harvest that He has provided mankind. Christians acknowledge the fact that all men are created equal in the image of God. John the Evangelist in 1 John 4:19-21 basically speaks to the Christians, saying how to love life and love others. He says, "We love because He first loved us. If anyone says, 'I love God,' and hates his brother, he is a liar. For he who does not love his brother, whom he has seen, cannot love God, whom he has seen. And this commandment we have from Him: whoever loves God must also love his brother." Atheism, on the other hand, is the complete disbelief in God, a God, or a divine creator, any divine entity. Because they have no acknowledgement of a divine creator, they lack an idea of creation. They lack the belief in creation, that mankind was created. They believe that mankind is one of the many categories of life that has evolved from a lower life form instead of being created. We came from something else. Without a divine creator, atheists cannot truly believe that all men are created equal. Unlike Christians, atheists do not see human life as universally equal in value, hence coming back to no divine creator, no common creator to create everyone equally. Mankind simply exists, and there is nothing that brings mankind together to be equal. Francis Crick, he was the co-discoverer of the DNA molecule. He really was the predecessor to the modern atheist. He believed that you do not have to have a creator to exist. You do not have to have a creator to have a soul or to have reason. His study in neuroscience helped him write his book, The Astonishing Hypothesis. And in this, he writes, "The astonishing hypothesis is that your joys and your sorrows, your memories and your ambitions, your sense of personal identity and free will are in fact no more than the behavior of a vast assembly of nerve cells and their associated molecules." What Francis Crick is saying is, man in reality is no more than a functioning composition of molecules. Thoughts and decisions are only the result of molecules reacting in a certain chemical process that man has no control over. On the other hand, the third worldview, Islam, agrees with the Christian value of life. They value life, but only to a point. The Quran teaches, or Islam follows the teachings of the Quran, and the Quran teaches that Islam is the best religion. Through this, Muslims do not believe that mankind is equal. They believe that yes, God is known as Allah, and that Allah is the only entity, but they do not believe that man was created in the eyes of Allah. They believe that man came from dust and that Allah breathed life into dust. Islam only values the life of those who believe or follows the Islamic doctrine, whereas Christianity believes that all life is precious regardless of what religion you follow. One of the biggest teachings in the Quran comes from Quran 8:12. It says, "I will cast terror into your hearts of those who disbelieve. Therefore strike off their heads and strike off every fingertip of them." Basically, the Quran and the teachings of Muhammad are giving the Islamic people permission. It is allowing the murder of those who do not adhere to nor follow the Islamic doctrine. Worldviews that value life without a guiding or divine principle cannot see life as equal, or the view of life will drift. By not believing in the creation of mankind, these worldviews also lack a belief in predetermined purpose. This is how Christianity offers the best moral understanding of personhood and human rights, because of its acknowledgement of the fact that all men are created equal. Christianity was a basis for this country. In the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson writes, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." You see, the Founding Fathers established certain inalienable rights that were God-mandated to the citizens of the United States. Man's right to life is a moral precept based on the understanding that every human has the right to live, and that each individual is protected from crimes that violate the personhood of each citizen. Atheists do not value life. They do not have the best moral understanding of life because they lack a divine creator. Atheists believe that life came to be by chance, evolution. It was by chance that we came from a lower life form, and that all human life is no more valuable than any other animal or plant. Islam does not value Islamic life. Therefore, Islam does not value non-Islamic life. Only the lives of the followers of the Islamic teachings are valued. Examples of these worldviews would be the current issues of abortion and slavery. You see, the anti-abortion movement, or the Christian movement, is that the human fetus is a human being. From the moment of conception on, it is a human being. And this human being has the right to life like every other human being. Yet the abortion movement does not agree. The abortion movement believes that the decision to end a life rests with the mother or parents, and that it is no more than tissue. The dehumanization of life through abortion is equal to any other genocidal acts to eliminate other groups of humans. Slavery, another practice of the dehumanization of individuals, is still happening. The Quran and the writings of Muhammad sanction slavery of non-Muslims. Not Muslims, but non-Muslims, any entity outside of the Islamic faith. Non-Muslim slavery is still being practiced in several Islamic North African countries. Mind you, Islamic North African countries. Christianity offers the best understanding because it has played a vital role in the elimination of both of these practices. In the 1700s, William Wilberforce, who was an evangelical Christian, led the fight for the eradication of the slave trade. Christianity is also currently at the forefront of the cessation of abortion. Mind you, they may not be doing very well, but they are still fighting for life. When God created man, he created him in his image and with a vision. Mankind was brought into being for the intended purpose of tilling God's creation and putting it to good use. Recognizing God's use of love and justice, Christians follow in God's footsteps to treat others as he treated mankind. Understanding that God values his creations, Christians find value in life. Thank you.
I'll let someone else begin.
Why is the idea that man is created important to the equality of man? Can't we be equal without being created? Is that impossible?
Are we equal without being created, or are we equal without being created by a divine creator?
Is it possible to be equal without being created by someone divine?
No.
Why would you say that?
Atheists view it as, okay, I personally believe that no, you have to have someone divine to create you. If you do not have a divine creator, then what is the basis for your life? Where does it come from? Are you better than anyone else? So, how do I say this in easier? How am I going to sing it? If you have something common, I have shoes, you have shoes. It makes us equal in wearing shoes. I have a creator, you do not have a creator. How is that possible? Would him being created and me being evolved change? Is what you're asking. If he has a creator and I do not, would that change our equality?
But I have blonde hair and you have brown hair. We have this, maybe we both have shoes, but I've got blonde hair and you've got...
We are created with the divine, okay.
Well, there are...
Maybe I'll ask, and maybe a tag along, and turn you back to Francis Crick. How do you think Francis Crick would answer that if he's the we're just biochemicals doing what biochemicals do? So if that's what we are...
Oh, easy. Okay. You have your own perception of good. You have your own perception of good. So, if she says 1 + 1 is 2 and you say, no, that's not right, 1 + 1 is 3. Where's your basis? If you do not have a common creator, then there is nothing common within you. If you're just a being, an essence, just kind of floating around, what makes you equal to that person? Nothing.
Well, we have a common biochemistry. There's more than one way of being equal. Right? We can say, well, look at glycolysis, something you've studied, right? Hey, we all do it. We all do glycolysis exactly the same way, unless you have a mutation in a disease. But because we all do glycolysis, sugar metabolism the same way, doesn't mean we all have equal rights to, say, property and resources, right? What if another way we're unequal? I'm stronger than you are in terms of just muscles. So if we're both grabbing for, like our dogs, the dog food, or we're both grabbing for the food, we're not equal. Right? But someone might say, but you have an equal right to the food. Well, does that come from molecules and chemistry, right? So we have to recognize there are different ways
We're
of
all
being.
equal in being, in essence. We all have the equal right to life.
So Craig is saying, biologically, we're all equal. We don't have any way of discriminating differences among each other biochemically, but we do. Yeah, right. Some of us are more fit to do certain things than others. So how do we deal with that?
You're talking about equality and the different systems. How do the different systems that you talked about speak of value of human life and how that relates to equality? Is value important to the concept of equality?
Yes.
And how do those different systems see value of human life and how it relates?
So Islam, they see that man is not equal. Hence, what is life? It's with the abortion idea, you are not anything until you are born. You are not alive. You are a formation of tissue. And it is okay for you to rid yourself of that burden, of this burden, because it's not a human being. So with that view, is there any value to it? No.
Going back to the other questions, maybe it might be helpful. How do you respond to a atheist who comes to you and says, it's not necessary to have a God or to have a creator. I can have compassion, I can have love for humanity, I can have respect for personhood, I can have respect for life, but I don't need a God to teach me those things. I can have that in and of myself.
Right, but where does the basis of having respect for someone to come from? I have respect for my parents. I love them because God created them and He gave them to me. But if I don't know where my respect comes from, what is the point to it? So if there is no... See, atheists, they lack the belief. They don't believe in anything. So if they don't believe in anything, how can they believe that your respect is good?
Well, they might say they believe in morality and ethics and so on.
But where does their basis for those ethics come from?
Good.
There.
Good.
So they're borrowing.
That's what I was
Right.
looking for. They're borrowing. Good.
Right.
Good.
Is actually...
Yeah.
Is it?
Well, back to the beginning, Liz, of your presentation. You started with the moral predicament. You seem to make reference to man's inability to basically be able to do something now,
Right.
perhaps to see the absolute truths. Well, that got me to thinking that there must have been a time when that was possible, but now it is no longer possible.
This actually, in Miss Kilgore's class, we had the grand idea of let's tie everybody's papers together and do them in order. Well, my paper tied to Matthew's in that way. It is not indoctrination, but the lack of education. See, that's why this school was formed, correct? Was to instill a higher education in us for the new generation. So when we do not have higher education, how can we understand something so true? Yes, it may be simple, but where does our knowledge of it come from? See, that's what Alistair McIntyre is saying, is that we know of the moral issue, but we don't understand why. We may know that 1 + 1 = 2, but we don't know why. See, I mean, we kind of do because we had Mr. Theory as our math teacher for a little while.
Know that much.
But I can't say, oh, James's jacket is blue, and know why. See, that's the issue, is we don't know why anymore. We may know it is, but we don't know why.
Like I'm supposed to respect my teachers and my college professors. There's a residual awareness of that, but it's being challenged. Is that what you're saying? Is what's happened to America? We're not...
I mean, I guess I could say, well, when, do we pinpoint a time when that happened? But I could also say that, there's a school in Nebraska where they know. So are we painting with a very broad brush, or are we saying there's a part of the population here that is lost, or some? In other words, are we saying like this applies to everyone?
Yes, I would agree that it applies to everyone. It's not the fact that something has done it to us, it is we have done it to ourselves. We lack the desire of it. So that lack of desire is, oh, we don't want to, we don't care. So come to the abortion, oh, well, I did this to myself. I am having a child. I am not married. I don't want to do it. I don't want to face the consequences. I don't care if it's a life. So I'll just get rid of it. I don't care. That's where it comes from, not caring.
How does this fit into the postmodern society in which we live in now, and especially our generation is very rooted in of how can you tell me what to believe because that path works for you but not for me, and that is postmodernism, and that is where we're at right now.
That is sheer relativism.
So, what is moral then in that kind of society? Because Islamic people would think that the way that they're acting and behaving would be moral to the Quran, and we believe as Christians that it's immoral. Abortion is, and slavery and that kind of thing. So, in the context of which we live right now, how can we make the argument that our way is moral and that our way is right. Even if we do believe in a creator, and even if we do believe that all men are created equal.
Then you have to seek truth.
What is truth?
Hang it.
How do we recognize that? We talked about that. That there aren't objective ways, then how would you convince the skeptic, right? Which is fair. We all decide we're going to be skeptics. We need to be convincing. So, I have that question down too. You said we must find absolute truth. How can humans reliably recognize this? It's a key question. Right? How can we, if you grow up in a different culture, and you think, our Constitution would stand in judgment of the way ISIS is behaving. So which is right? Reason says they can't both be right. Right? Like you're saying, you either have, everyone has inalienable rights or they don't. So how do you know which is right, our Constitution or the whatever written or unwritten mandate ISIS or somebody like that has?
I think when we were talking about it in class, we came down to the idea of it. If it is true, I think I actually asked you about this too. If it is true, then it should not harm you. Do you remember this conversation in class? I asked, well, if it's morally true, then can it be detrimental to yourself? And I said, no, it cannot be detrimental to yourself. Because if it is morally true, well, then the moral came from what? I say a divine being, a God. God. And God had our greatest intent in mind. He created us because he loved us. You see, I just lost my train of thought, dang it.
We also talked about self-sacrifice, though.
Right.
That most people think that there are times when you would sacrifice yourself or your well-being for a child's safety, for example.
But does that come down into the essence of killing?
Perhaps.
So, murder versus killing. God, Jesus, told his disciples when he was going to the Garden of Gethsemane to take up a sword. Basically because he was leaving. Jesus knew that he was leaving. And he was sending his disciples forward into the nation, into places where Christianity wasn't accepted, therefore their lives were on stake. But he told them to take up a sword. And when they came back with 2, he said that is enough. But he told them that with the essence of killing. See, what the difference is between Christianity and Islam is that you are allowed to murder someone who does not adhere to your belief. Whereas Christianity, Christ says, the essence of killing should be done in the act of righteousness. This is why soldiers are allowed to kill in the army. Is the act of righteousness. They are doing it for what they believe is true.
So the ultimate question remains, which are you going to believe? Christianity or strict interpretation of the Quran? And I will say there are 4 presentations tomorrow which will further pursue the idea of absolute truth, ultimate truth. So these are not necessarily designed to be exhaustive. Yeah, I did mention that these are challenging, right? These are not for the faint-hearted, but these are critical questions. Critical questions. Yeah, good job. Good job to all 3 of our presenters. How about one more hand for